I counsel,
Yep.
advise, negotiate for them, manage these athletes.
Mhm.
And there was one gentleman, he's actually a rapper and actor named David Banner. I had the honor of discovering David Banner.
Yep.
He met me in Atlanta,
Mhm.
and I had the idea of the charity. I'd been doing charitable work, and I just came up with, well, how did I become successful?
Welcome to the Your Message Received podcast. And now, taking your message to the finish line, your host, John Duffin.
Hey folks, John Duffin here with Duffin Media. Welcome back to another episode of Your Message Received. Your Message Received is the home, the place, the platform to help you find your best, most true, authentic business voice. Maybe just your true, most authentic voice. That'll get you far. Get what you want, find what you need, improve your results, meet the person of your dreams, make billions of dollars. Can't guarantee those last two, but I got to tell you, the guest that we have on today, who knows, has done an awful lot for an awful lot of people. Dr. Glenn Toby, welcome to the show, sir. I really am honored to have you on.
Honored to be here. Thank you for choosing me.
Hey, I'm thrilled that you're here. Folks, we're in for a good one. Dr. Glenn Toby is not just a philanthropist, not just a successful entrepreneur, easy for me to say, but let me tell you, when we talk about transformation, and as you know, as followers of the show, we're all about the bounce back, all about that arc to authenticity. This is a great story that talks about grit and grace and the ability to put yourself in the highest of high profile places with the highest of high profile people. You go to Dr. Toby's website, and right off the bat, you will notice some really recognizable names singing and saying tributes. And Glenn, I'll ask you this right off the bat. Were you one of, when you were growing up, were you the starstruck type? I was. So I'm just going to say, I'm curious, were you?
I wasn't actually. I had such a vivid imagination.
Okay.
I saw the biggest stars as like an extension of my family.
Mm.
They were just relatives or friends that I didn't get a chance to meet yet. I had such a strong connection to them. Maybe the indelible light in them, characterization, or how they're portrayed, connected with something in me that I didn't give them the higher frame in terms of anchoring. I just saw them as a part of me. Or me
as an extended part of you and of your family. I'm curious. So growing up, would you, like, who were some of those people that you felt like were members of your family at that time?
I would say I would watch things like, I saw the TV shows, like they had Ed Sullivan, and they had, I saw Dr. Martin Luther King speaking, and I saw a presence on him and a spirit on him that was different than other pastors or preachers. There was something about this guy, the way he spoke, the resonation. I'd listen to the voice of John F. Kennedy. It sounded like music when he spoke, that resonating, that Boston voice. Or I'd listen to James Brown as I got older, and I heard when he'd say soul, the way he'd say soul, it echoed. I watched Richard Nixon. I watched some of the biggest iconic stars in music, whether it was Elvis Presley, and I saw Elvis during his darkest years, and I still kind of understood some of it. I watched Michael Jackson. I mean, all of these emerging stars, it was something I was able to take. And in the fantasy side of the world, cartoons, the Jetsons. I thought it would be possible to talk on one of those phones or to fly in the air autonomously. I believed those things could be possible. And I'd look at the characterization of some of the funny characters of a show called Lost in Space. There was this one, Will, what are you doing, Will? With a funny voice. And I would look at this guy. Why is he talking like that? I'd take it over to the honeymooners and watch how this man was talking to his wife, not realizing that that would be a modality for marriage or relationships. I drew from those things natively, but I didn't realize it was a part of what would become my ingredient in how to express myself or transfer thoughts or to transmodulate concepts.
So it's one of the things that I love that. I love how broad your vision was at that young of an age. I remember, and I asked it because I remember for myself, I had a really localized lens, so to speak. I'm old enough that there were local television shows that carried animation. Now, they weren't using local animation, but so the Jetsons clearly resonates to me as well, too. But there were those individuals, I was starstruck by the localism of it. I love the fact that your vision in terms of from a national scale was broader, from Dr. Martin Luther King to Elvis, and that part's great. And so I think when I hear that, first off, I think it makes for a much more enjoyable upbringing. I think that unless your upbringing is perfect, and very few people's are, if anyone's, that these are great extensions to making your life as a young person better, because I love your description in terms of, in essence, extensions of your family. So it just expands your reach. I want to talk about in terms of the fact of not just being starstruck, but I want to touch on in terms of, you were born where?
Born in Brooklyn, raised in
Right.
Queens. I was born in
Right.
Crown Heights section of Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you remember when you were a little kid? What did you see? What did you feel in regards to the neighborhood? What was it like?
Well, I grew up in an amazing home full of,
Mm-hmm.
my mother's from Georgia, my father's from Mississippi. My dad was not in my life.
Okay.
And my grandmother lived with us and my brother Randall, and
Mm-hmm.
it was full of reading. My life was mostly reading, storytelling,
Mm-hmm.
stories that my mother told me,
Mm-hmm.
reading, the Bible and going to museums. And all of this happened up until the age of 8,
Mm-hmm.
where I experienced youth homelessness. I came home at 8 years old, everything we owned, all on the street. My mother couldn't continue to go forward. She had a nervous breakdown. And I remained without a stable home, living with relatives or bouncing around with
Mm-hmm.
the support of the government or social
Right.
programs. Then I go through all those years, education, education, education.
Mm-hmm.
Discipline is mandatory because sometimes we'd sleep in train stations, or we'd have to stay awake and ride on the trains back and forth until
Mm-hmm.
my mother could get a hotel room. And we weren't compromised. We weren't abused. We grew up in a state of love. We just didn't have our own bed and we just didn't have a house, but we always had a home.
Did you understand when you were growing up that was, you come from a home of reading? So it's not that this is not an intelligence question, but the way that it sounds like it was positioned is more of a sense of, this is just a different way to grow up. Did you know that it was different? Did you know that it was difficult? Or did you just, no pun intended from the rides, that ride the ride?
It's amazing you say that, because I generally, when I explain that to people, nobody gets it.
Mm-hmm.
So to us, it was like a journey. It was excitement.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because I was that kind of person. I was driven by imagination, experiencing, curiosity. So here I am, 13 hours out of the day in the summertime, if we're not in school, I'm sitting in New York City watching different languages, different people, different sounds, expressions, anger, love, joy, a kid maybe that's lost, even hearing newspapers, get your tickets here, all these voices. I'm downputting this as parts of the ingredient in my life. I mean, even so much to where at a very young age, we could identify someone that may have been Chinese versus someone that may have been Korean.
Mm-hmm.
As an African American person here, somebody's from Jamaica or someone's from Dominican Republic. This person's Jewish, this one's Irish. And we learned by identifying not a connotation of, or a precept of, this is who this person is, this is what this represents, just the voice. Just the face.
Voice.
Just the look.
Voice.
Not the black guy's this way, the Jewish guy's this way, the Irish guy's here. Never that. But just identifying, this is how I identify the soul that this body is carrying.
So you go, but I heard you earlier. I just like the way that you identified the way that James Brown used the word soul and the length of it and all that stuff. So you have this incredibly keen ear. So same question, different context, which is, so as you're identifying cultural, I guess that's cultural ethnicities. I guess that's what I want to be able to say. That you can identify, Dominicans and Haitians and or like within the visible look. Did you know that was different, or is that just how it went? And I ask that because not everybody does or do that. They don't. I mean, so very often I grew up in a city. I grew up in Philadelphia, PA, and where we grew up in Philadelphia, every nationality was there. The problem was that every nationality, culture, ethnicity was on a separate block. And it was almost as if everybody was, I hate this word, but I'll say everybody was caged. So you didn't go outside of the cage. But if you went a block over, here's a whole different group and another block over. So that's how I grew up and identified different cultures and ethnicities. Who you were, where you lived, and therefore you must. So did you know the way you were doing it was different?
I didn't get a chance to know there was a difference. So from early on, my mother would say she'd refer to the Bible, refer to spirituality. And the Orthodox Jewish community is right in the middle of Crown Heights. So my mother was open to Judaism, which we had great exposure to. The Rebbe was his headquarters, and we understood Seder, just all of the most sacred pieces of Judaism. And then we understood the Baptist religion, because Southern Baptist. So the construct of righteousness, respect, morals, principles, and values were so input. Our mother didn't let us get off. It doesn't matter if this is a striped tiger or an elephant or a giraffe or even a mouse. All of those are God's creatures, and we treat them the same, and they all play an important part. I bought into that early. I only saw race and color and religion as an identifier to possible ideology. But as a person, you realize everybody that looks a certain way is not what you think. People can sometimes, if you have a bunch of books and they fall on the ground, they have covers. Sometimes people put the wrong cover on the wrong book. So,
literally and figuratively.
So we just bypassed it and stepped to the core, the messaging, the treatment, the purpose. We had to take away quick. When you're homeless from 8 years old to 7th grade, you realize you do not have a lot of time for things that don't bring resources, that don't resolve a place for you to sleep that night, whatever mother's doing, working in the daytime. My mother wasn't forced to do anything illegal. She was never compromised. She worked hard, and she was smart. And we had to have resilience and discipline in order to get through it. So we didn't have time for dissonance and noise and distractions. We didn't search for what the difference was. We looked for how we connected. How were we alike? Because how we're alike makes the difference.
Wow. So, and that is quite a stretch of time when you say from 8 years old to 7th grade. And let's hope my math still is okay. I'm coming up with at least a 5-year stretch of time. And Absolutely. So with that being, when did you know or think or suspect that there was something more in it for you than needing to use that sort of resilience? When did you start to realize that there's some other purpose and I need to do something with it?
So we were so well protected, so well educated, and so well disciplined, but still I'm this rambunctious kid. I was always rambunctious, adventurous, running all over the place, mischievous kid, sort of like Dennis the Menace kind of kid, but I'm not doing a lot of bad stuff.
I'm laughing because you're using so many old references, and I only know that because I know them. So it's like, I'm like, oh my God, got that one too. Right.
So I'm seeing that, and in seeing it, I saw it as a blessing, not a curse. So
Mhm.
if I noticed a caricature or personality, I'd look at the trait, I'd look at how someone's responding to it. I'd even take it to 007. I'd see 007
Sure.
doing this amazing stuff because we watched
Mhm.
a lot of movies. Like being homeless, we sometimes we didn't have anywhere to go. Till mother was waiting to get a check, or we were waiting for a hotel room.
Mhm.
So we go to movies together as a family,
Right.
and I'd be watching. I would extrapolate and take things. I saw the
Mm.
suit; it was indelibly put in my mind. Dressing well, him talking to the lady like this. I didn't know the difference about sexuality at that time,
Yeah,
or
sure.
I just know there's pretty women around this guy. Everybody likes him. And that went in my head. Then I would watch even the Three Stooges when they'd say like, "Hey, you dummy." So, okay, he's calling this guy a dummy, but I
Mhm.
would still see something good in this guy. Like
Mhm.
the way he asked the question that was considered stupid, I could see that in me asking that question. So I didn't see him really stupid.
Mm.
I would notice that him treating this guy this way brings him behaving or asking this question the wrong way gets this response.
Mm. Oh,
I
okay.
also
Mhm.
I also didn't like the way he was directing the question. So I immediately was just taking things that I put into a pot like a gumbo and mixed it up, all these different ingredients of failure and success.
Mhm.
But listen, that doesn't do it. It's not modified by the people. I had to fail well in order to win.
Give me an example of failing well.
Failing well is I remember when I'll give you three levels. One is when I went to school and there was a maraca and I banged the maraca on the table, not knowing to shake it because I never heard of that instrument. I was so embarrassed, but not ashamed. I was so uncomfortable. I remember the teacher, and I think I cried. The kids may have seen it, but the teacher
Mhm.
did. And she whispered, "It's okay. Keep going. You're just learning." I kind of heard it. I grabbed that feeling
Yeah.
of not being comfortable,
Mhm.
of not being accepted and making a mistake. And I remember to the core of my soul, when I was young, I said, "I'm never doing this again. I'm going to get this right."
Mhm.
I think from that day, I said, I'm not going to I committed my life to not making the same mistakes twice.
So
Committed my life, not things that I could control.
a
And I
really
said,
noble goal, but I would say, how much pressure did that put on you?
I don't think it's funny you say that. It didn't because still as a child, I wasn't manic about it.
Okay,
But
great.
I think it reframed me
Mhm.
to use the reading
Mhm.
and to listen because I overly talk. I'm a
Mhm.
communicative person, but I'm
Right.
listening more than you think.
Mhm.
So the piece for me was more focus, pay attention, can't get this wrong.
Mhm.
That pressure didn't hurt me. That pressure helped me.
See?
Like a diamond
Great.
being crushed to say,
Right?
I want the diamond. I don't
Mhm.
care that I'm in the dark right
Mhm.
now. I don't care that I'm surrounded by this coal, COAL or this COLD when I was homeless as a child.
Mm.
I'll go through hell to get to
Mhm.
heaven. I'll go through the fire to get my desire.
So you failed well, which is a great trait. But I'll ask you, when was the first time you knew you succeeded? And I mean younger. I don't mean what client. I mean, when was the first time you were like, oh, okay. So this is what success feels like.
I think when we were struggling to
Hmm.
find permanent housing,
Hmm.
I would go to school and I realized sometimes I'd be talking in class or make me in the class clown because socially, you're the kid that doesn't have the best of everything physical.
Right.
So I tried other things,
Hmm.
being funny, being great at sports, talking in class, getting attention,
Hmm.
trying to establish myself. But what I did was I was getting A pluses and hundreds
Gotcha.
and I kept getting them.
Hmm.
And the more I got them, the teacher talked to me differently.
Mm.
The other kids looked at me differently,
Hmm.
and the world looked different to me.
Hmm.
Through the education piece, I felt like I had a superpower, wisdom, information. I just
Hmm.
had to learn how to apply it. Once I had that as the foundation,
Hmm.
everything else was icing on the cake.
I love that. So I literally want to ask to me, the easiest follow-up questions, which are, first off, when you say that, I just had to figure out how to apply it. So you're someone who almost is like detective-like in the sense that you see, feel, hear things, and you can absorb and then move the pieces. How did you, how did you apply those traits which are clearly so necessary in what you've elevated to do, how did you know what to do with them?
Well, you don't know, and I'm going to say to
Yeah,
people that are viewing
yeah,
us,
yeah.
to anybody viewing this, if you don't know, identify 4 boxes. The things you can't control, you think, I just can't get better at math. I just
Mhm,
can't stop talking out loud. I have a temper.
mhm,
And if it's drinking, if it's playing ball too much, playing video games, not being attentive,
mhm,
find out what are those points? What are those elements you can't control? Find out what you master and you can control.
mhm,
Find someone you can identify, whether it's a healthcare professional, whether it's a
mhm,
spiritual leader, whether it's someone in your family or friends. And then lastly, you get all these pieces of what don't work,
mhm,
put them on the table, see what people pick up. If people pick up your ideas and imagination,
mhm.
everybody goes to that. If some people go to how you defend and protect and help others out, does someone come to your radiance, your eloquence, the way you speak, the
Mhm.
way you look, the way you shine, your lifestyle? Does someone come to your sage wisdom and the righteousness? Or does someone come to you being able to make money and increase people? Find out what's valuable to everybody else. And even if everything that they have is not valuable to you, it might be a business that you have. This might be something for you to commoditize or capitalize. Capitalization of an idea can become a business. But mostly find out what they don't want to pick up and find out if you want to keep carrying it yourself.
Love that. I love that. What would be an example of something in your toolbox that is something you don't want to carry yourself, or that you were able to let go of?
Well, I still struggle with it. It's trying to, because I've helped people as part of my life purpose, being a
Right,
helper,
right.
being a master giver. But
Mhm.
there's some people you can't give because they won't receive.
Oh.
Some people will not
Mhm.
accept what you're giving. I learned that doing with the Book Bank Foundation. It's a 501c. It's been around for 30 years.
Yep.
It's a literacy-based foundation. We
Mhm.
help the lost, the lonely, and the forgotten. We have a program called Shelter from the Streets. In 1 year, we did so well, serving so many people. We take 5 buses. We go through all 5 boroughs. We bring items of personal hygiene, clothing, cell phones, and medicine that is properly vetted from the homeless shelter, whoever we're serving.
Mhm.
And there was one person I tried to help. It was breaking my heart. He had sores on his feet. He was mentally
Mhm.
not well. And I just tried to give him something. He did not want anything I wanted to
Mhm.
give him. He wanted to be left alone. He was fine in his state. And I had to understand that's his statehood. That's not my job to step over and to serve or deliver to him.
Or
I had
step
to
on.
learn say that again, brother. That was
Or
amazing.
step on him with your good nature. You know what I mean?
Thank you for
That
saying
it's
that.
like
Yes.
you clearly identified that. How long has, you said it's 30 years? That's not what I want to ask you how long, but what I meant to say was that with the Book Bank Foundation, do you remember the early stages of that and how that was able to like take hold? I mean, look, what you just described is really powerful. But all of an organization like that, a philanthropy or a 501, have to start somewhere. How did it take hold? How was it received? How did you get the funding to make that work? Or did you fund it yourself? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just curious, and then I want to take one more step back in regards to starting in your own professional. I want to go there, but I just am really curious about a 30-year foundation. It's a powerful deal. How did
Absolutely.
it get rolling?
Well, I had in the world of sports,
Mm-hmm.
I had partnered with Alonzo Shavers. We had a sports agency,
Mm-hmm.
Infinite Sports Technologies. We did tremendous amount of business,
Mm-hmm.
major influence. We did the $60 million deal for your boy Asante Samuel when we moved him.
Yeah.
So I had to enjoy that. Countless other professional athletes that I would
Go
counsel.
Birds.
Yeah. What a year. What a year you guys had. And I'd counsel,
Yep.
advise, negotiate for them, manage these athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one gentleman, he's actually a rapper and actor named David Banner. I had the honor of discovering David Banner.
Yep.
He met me in Atlanta,
Mm-hmm.
and I had the idea of the charity. I'd been doing charitable work, and I just came up with, well, how did I become successful? It was from books, reading, education. You have book bank. You have a spiritual bank,
There you go.
financial bank,
Mm-hmm.
an emotional bank,
Mm-hmm.
a mental, where the ideas are. So book and bank. The foundation of my life has been reading and what I hold,
Mm-hmm.
the things that I put into not just the bank or into myself, but what I put into others. So it became Book Bank Foundation. I commoditized it so there would be a vehicle that other people could be trained how to do philanthropy in the gift of giving, which
Got
I
it.
call giving in faith and trust. I give to you in faith, and I trust that you'll do the right thing with the gift.
I think that's pretty amazing what you just didn't know. I think that's a beautifully well put version of the foundation for the Book Bank Foundation. So thank you for that narrative. I think it was beautiful. Now, I want to ask you this. I want to go back to the point of applying the skills to find, like you talked about, these individuals, and without broaching proprietary or disclosing, I simply want to know from a top line level, you're competing, or were, now you've established yourself, but we're breaking into a field that almost anybody would want to do because they read the glamorous and world's famous locations and the most famous people and blah, blah, blah. Very few people like dream about all the work that's involved to get to that point. But that's all, you know. So here's what I would love to know at this point, which is you had to get established. You're dealing in, if I'm looking at your current client base, it's insane, but you had to break in. And I'm always curious in regards to being able to establish yourself as a credible resource. Somebody has to give you an opportunity, and somebody's got to understand that it's either their reputations, their finances, or whatever the case may be in a cutthroat field. How were you able to break through on a higher level? And what did it feel like when you knew that you had?
The training ground was Positive K, the rapper, who went on to be really, really big. I was one of his favorite rappers. He's lived in Queens. My brother Randall and I managed him. I produced his first record, co-wrote it with him, and then he went on to superstardom because he left and went somewhere else. He had to go to a bigger company. And from there, I did some corporate work. But then later on, my friend Charles Fisher brought me into a crowded house. LL's father was managing him. Brian Latour, the first manager he ever had, and I joined that team. So when they brought me onto the team, they gave me the most difficult assignments. I had to earn my own. I was only paid based on commission. With a guy like this, I had to get the Coca-Cola ad, the one where he's braiding his hair. I have to help him with the tour, his book deal, all these other deals that I had to do that would bring money to the table that would make Todd Cool J go, wow, this is okay. He always looked up to me as one of the first pioneers. I was one of the, Mr. Sweetie G, I was one of the pioneers of hip hop in Queens. Yeah. But that was just a footnote. Once I started bringing in revenue and bringing him into different spaces, it taught me to be able to get along with my other co-managers. I even drafted many of the agreements and the memos. I did much of the work, getting zero credit except in the pocket and building a career.
Okay.
So I realized the value was fitting in with a team, taking all the responsibility, all of the risk, all the measurability that it takes to get to where you're supposed to be is going to be placed on you. How much money did the client earn? How are they better? When the music stops playing and nobody's moving around, what can you stand up and say you've done or you're going to do, or where are you? That gives you the humility, the responsibility, the focus, and the drive to execute with high returns. It's all or nothing at this point because I'm right on the stage. The lights are on me.
Yeah.
I built a business from that saying. There were so many people who were unethical, thieves, con men, scammers, pretenders, people who were disingenuous, didn't care about the core of the talent. Always loved the core of the talent because they're my friends. And I felt blessed for them to choose me before I became a notable protector and got an advisor and a talent manager. So I came with ethics and principles. That was what I used to put my sign in the window to say, listen, bring it to me. I'll do what's right
Mhm.
to the best of my level.
I love the word protector in that description. How were you able to demonstrate your ability to protect somebody? Often in an industry where you've got people that either have to act tough or that have to act bigger than life, and in often cases are bigger than life, how were you able to protect them, to make them feel safe?
Usually I believe the best way to provide protection,
Yeah.
a good defense is a greater offense. So if you teach the client
Hmm.
or the subject what they need to do to guard themselves,
Hmm.
what tools they have in their box that can be used for them, they'll protect themselves. I was managing LL Cool J
Right.
when the hip hop beefs were going on, when
Mhm.
Biggie Smalls and Tupac were going at it, and Suge Knight was running crazy. We were going to LA. We never checked in. We never were extorted. Todd, Cool J was, his name is Todd.
Yeah.
Cool J was always isolated from those specific activities because we had spiritual protection. We were prayerful. We believed that we were not in that space. We did not want to go in the space. Nothing took us off. We weren't chasing money. We weren't chasing power. We weren't chasing fame. So we were in our own space. Somebody would have to come off the track of greed or need
Hmm.
to come into our space. We didn't even open the door. No temptations. We're on focus. We didn't want more than what we worked for, more than we deserved. And all my clients have always been like that. What they get is what they work for. And it's an indelible reality because you know the seeds that you plant, if the harvest comes, it's because of the environment, because of weather, because of what you're doing as a farmer or the person that's going in to care for it. That's the only thing that comes back. Honesty, transparency, and not being afraid to be vulnerable, to tell your client, I don't know this, I don't have this, you're never going to get this from me. When you're that honest, it's rare.
So you've pushed clients back.
All day long, fire myself.
Ah, okay.
If it
Okay.
goes wrong, I had a big NFL client. Something was going on. It was so crazy. I knew that this was ego. I don't want to give it away. I don't want to say his
No, please
position.
don't. I
But,
don't. For you, not for
yeah.
me. I'm
but,
just
but,
saying.
but listen, he'll tell you. He'll
Right.
tell you, John, this is a guy that'll say, it was me. But we were having an argument about something totally crazy. And I said, I'm fired. He said, what the hell are you talking about? I said, I'm fired.
Oh, you're
Quit.
serious.
I'm out.
Oh, okay.
He said, you can't quit. I said, no, I didn't quit. I'm fired. That's what you call quit.
Mhm.
So I don't reassign myself to things spiritually, emotionally, or equitably that don't make sense. Because in the end, free things cost more. And if you're costing your client more than what they're getting in return,
Mhm.
by nature, the curtain's going to get pulled up, the clock is going to tick, and you're going to get exposed. You got to go in right so you can go out right. All my clients, they have the same words to say about me. They've had the great results. I have had no issues because I serve to the limit of the agreement, the time
Mhm.
that I'm supposed to serve.
Mhm.
I identify when I need to move on. I'll find somebody to replace me or allow them to do it. You got to be honest. You got to show up with all of you.
When did you realize that it was important also for you to uh, give back? And we've talked about your major or the 30-year endeavor in regards to philanthropy, but it's far and away certainly not the only thing. And so when did you realize that, like, in essence, you were describing this as almost like a plant where it in essence is important? You were describing, let me make sure I got the words right, something faith, and that sense of being able to, there were three words that you used, and I would love it if you
Oh,
could.
you mean giving in faith and trust?
Yeah, exactly. So that's a process, I believe, much more so than a good, a good quote. So that process, how were you able to get that going on what clearly seems to be a larger scale now?
So in terms of scalability,
Yeah.
I didn't commoditize philanthropy. I didn't commoditize gifting. I wasn't earning any money, 100% pass through. It's a community-oriented organization. You don't need money. If you have some extra food, extra clothes that need to be brand new or gently worn and cared for, bring
Right.
that. If you have a word of inspiration, so I made it bigger than me, bigger than what they're receiving. It's in the gift. So in order for it to survive, I knew I needed more people who were smarter than me, stronger than me, and had different gifts. So I didn't commoditize it. Commodity meaning an exchange. I commercialized it. I made it sexy. I made it important. I gave validity to the person that's letting something go. So I used to guard the gifts I were giving. I would examine, are you worthy of what I'm giving you? And I'd look at these organizations. Some of them were religious organizations, or they were massive givers, billion-dollar givers, and they want the person to tell them how much they love the gift and how great they are. I removed all of that because I said, wait, I'm doing the same thing. I'm identifying who I need to give to. I want to know if this person is going to take the gift I'm giving them to buy alcohol or drugs. Are they going to resell it? Well, I said to myself, that's not my concern. I give from the heart, not from the pocket. So I said to myself, you have to give in faith. I have faith. I have hope. I trust that when I give this to you, you're going to do the right thing. None of that's up to me. I'm in the give. The give gives the gift. The person that receives it may not ever get the gift, just what I gave them. That's not for me to decide. And what I give them, if it's measurable and treasurable, if it has resource, if it can be used for something, that's the missive. That's the massive gift. That's the purpose. It's the exchange between what you've offered or given them and how they draw from it. Nothing you can do can change that experience. Nothing you can do to get them to do anything. You can't be you can't be bigger than the gift.
So maybe you just answered my question. My next one in advance, which was really for somebody who grew up without a lot of possessions, a lot of instability in terms of where you slept in regards to, you know what I mean? That what I kept thinking was that sense of ability to let go. That had to have taken a while, or did it, to be able to go? Or okay,
It did. There was some gaps, obviously, some things that you miss. But I remember one time, my brother Randall and I, we were walking down the street. This is when my mother had her last paycheck before the total spiraling down. Someone snatched her handbag.
Oh,
and
that happened to my mom too. It's
yeah.
like,
Oh, yeah.
oh,
In Manhattan. And my mother was rubbing her arm to see if she was hurt. She started crying. We wondered if she was hurt. My mother broke down and cried. We asked her, Mother, you okay? She said she was crying because anybody that could steal from a woman with 2 children, I only can imagine what they're going through. We're looking at our mother like, wow.
yeah.
During this walk, we also had toys. And how crazy is this? We got toys from our job because my mother had a problem at the job. Our boss did some things at the job, embezzlement. It's all historically written. It's documented. I'm not going to give him any glory in his negativity. And my mother lost her job because she wouldn't support this guy in his crookedness. But she still had the dignity to show up, was not going to be reduced. So they had a toy drive. My mother took the toys, our names were on it. Nobody else knew that she was going to lose the job. That's going to happen. We went by the New York Foundling Hospital. My mother took our toys while we're homeless and gave it to them. And I remember welling up, Randall and I looking, not anger, but just heart. And she said, you have to give more. You have to give to those. This is what the Spirit tells us to do. It's what God was. And I took it in, didn't fully understand it, but I think it went in my soul. And all the days of my life, I have become a master giving person. I believe if you want to master life and master living, you got to first master giving.
So 2 more questions for the moment, which is the first one is I ask everybody, which has to do with authenticity. And so a general question I'm trying to make specific to our conversation, which is in this point, the sense of authenticity. How does authenticity resonate with you and to you when you know someone's being authentic? What's it feel like to you?
Wow, what an amazing question. I'd have to say It's the pureness of someone saying something you don't want to hear. That's pure. Someone's hearing everything you want to hear in the most beautiful way. That's honest. I think it's those moments that we're uncomfortable with. I think it's the surprises. I think it's the reality. How well do we hold it? How well do we mold it? And I think I live in imagination. I live in authenticity. I live in the origin of the thoughts, these uncompleted ideas, like the way I go off the top of my head. Like I'd say, this is what I do. It's Friday afternoon. A matter of fact, I waited for this podcast. It couldn't come too soon. You talk about Philadelphia, and I think of all those things. This is exactly what it is. I got Super Bowl rings, but other things come to mind every time that I shine. Look behind, and you can see my grind. All these celebrities, these things that we search to find. Listen, don't let the glory of the money leave you blind. I get back on my grind, and I ask you to sign. Let God give us the indelible spirit for us to just bind. And let me tell you one thing. If you're going to live, remember what I said in the first place. Man, you got to give.
So you brought up soul earlier, and that is such a beautiful, soulful thing that I heard. My last question today is this, which is, you talk about pieces you pick up and put down, and where do people gravitate toward? Going into your ability to be maybe a mind reader, what do you think people need right now in terms of, if you have this incredible toolbox of capabilities and or strengths, what do you think people could use right now in terms of making their lives a little bit better?
From within, from the person, or from what we're supposed to get?
Within, thanks.
Within people, I say to you today, isolate yourself for just a moment. If you're completely isolated, 100% of the time, take 10% of that isolation and apply it to self. For those of you that are totally consumed, work, live, life balance. For those of you that may be anywhere from incarcerated physically, mentally, or spiritually, you feel you're broken, you're disconnected, take some time for just yourself. Just yourself, and isolate you. Look at you from your perspective. Look at you from someone else's perspective. Look at you from the past perspectives. And look at each space and delineate. Take something from it. Take something great from it. So if someone says there's nothing great from this person tried to kill me.
Yeah.
Well, you lived. Or if I have to say for you two, this person tried to unlife me. So, but I'm still alive. This person cheated me out of half my money. I still have half my money. This relationship stopped working after 10 years. It worked for 9. We have to find not just the assignment of our lives, but the reassignment of our lives. Sometimes you can't get to where you're going because of where you've been, from an experience, from something that's hindering you, from a responsibility that limits you. It's the reassignment of your life, not just the assignment. You may not have found your assignment, but when you find it, be able to let go of what was past. Be able to get off the vehicle that you're traveling in spiritually and mentally, get everything, let it go. If you got you reassigned, you got to switch and go in a different direction. You're going from an airplane to a boat, from a walk to a run, from a run to a crawl, from a start to a stall. But to get through it all, you have to make sure you can reassign, be adaptable, be patient, be giving, be forgiving.
That's beautiful. I got to tell you, Dr. Glenn Toby, I am honored, and I so acknowledge you, that spirit, that energy, and your generosity in regards to what you give. I know your website is a killer, and that will certainly be in the bio, so we will know to find you there, and you're all over social, YouTube, and every other platform, and I think that's very exciting. Is there any place specifically that you think people should go to find you best?
I like everybody on social media.
Cool.
Glenn Toby, GLENNTOBY. The same thing at Facebook.
Yep. And Glenn, I promise you, All those links will be in the bio, so I won't torture you and make them read them all out loud. And that's it. Those will be there. They need to be. Are they, again, and obviously your website, and I see something about ready to be held up.
A fun book is The Asian Power League, a book that I authored. It is a fictional novel that I'm so excited about, have fun about. I love, I want everybody I think every person has a book inside them. And I want to share this book with the audience. Take a look at it, read it. I hope it inspires somebody else to become an author. All of us have a book. We are writing a book every day. Every year is a chapter. And as decades go on and we put these chapters together, people, we end up with a book. What binds us are our truths, our experiences, our failures, and our losses. The spine of the book. Find your book, be it in print. Take my hint. Check it out, The Asian Power League.
I'm very excited for that. Glenn, thanks so much for showing up for me today. Thanks for bringing as much as you brought. I am so grateful to have you here. It was absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
100%. Folks, you've just heard another episode of Your Message Received. Keep liking, watching, listening, subscribing, tell it to all your friends, and we will keep coming back with more. John Duffin here at Duffin Media. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we will definitely talk soon. Be well, all. Bye.
And now, making its way across the finish line, Your Message Received has been a production of Duffin Media.